Hello and welcome to the River Shaman Ramblings podcast, where I, your hostess, Spear Carrier's Ghost Fox, will ramble like a crazy lady at a bus stop, usually about some crazy stuff. Currently, I am telling the story of what had happened to I and on the fringe, two of my friends, over the last spring equinox and the Saturn doing the magical ring thing it does ever so often. This is part 3 of I'm calling it the Tale of the Ham Sandwich. And why am I, or is it the Saga of the Ham Sandwich? Why am I calling it that? Because I see our world, which is built in layer worlds that many religions have documented and remember, such as, there's heaven that we're all familiar with, and there's the deeper layers, which I call below. And then there's the side layers, one of which people believe the reticulans, that would be the gray aliens to you, come from. And then there's the layer I come from, which I am calling the garden for the purposes of this particular podcast. And they're all there, and we're all sandwiched together, kind of like a ham sandwich. And that's just how I see it. So this is the Saga of the Ham Sandwich, because I am telling you the tale of an adventure that happened to I and two of my friends across the Great Divide. I am suddenly reminded of something that my father had said, because he knew I was not from this layer, and so I could talk openly to him. And I said to him once that I wanted to go home, and he said to me, "You can't." He said, "It's too hot," he had said one day. And then another day he had said to me that going home the way we used to do, where we would travel back and forth, which is documented in the old myths, is no longer possible because things expanded and everything had separated and keeps separating. And then later, a few years later in high school or somewhere, I believe it was high school, but it could be just because I like to watch stuff, I learned that space keeps expanding. These are just some interesting things coming out of the mouth of the man who later in life told everybody I was insane because he had found Christianity. So before I begin on the next part of the tale, I need to explain that what happened was definitely an act of walking between worlds, which is a shamanic practice. Now, I knew that I was of a shamanic bent. I come from medicine people on top of a lot of other noble, blue-blooded, weird Christian missionary. Then there's the whole alleged straight back to Gothi Loki. Yeah. I got a lot of weirdness in my family tree. And the reason why I don't really put very much stock on it here is that you can have no weirdness in your family tree and experience something like this. I am of a firm mind that this is a case of nature versus nurture. I was raised weird because I come from a weird family. And you can say weird, W-E-I-R-D, or you can do weird, W-Y-R-D, either or. That has made me more hyper aware to things around us. And I just happen to be one of those children that this is what I gravitated to. This is where my talents started to lie. But you could be somebody who has absolutely nothing in your lineage at all and just have a natural bent to be weird and experience something profound. I am told that what happened over the course of the equinox to me and afterwards was wackadoo and over the top and huge. And I'm thinking that other people probably had just as huge things happen to them. But because of the way people want to call this series of events wackadoo, because maybe it's too big for them, and you'll see what I mean as the story progresses, so they have to keep things to themselves. And I have actively chosen not to keep things to myself, as wild and outside of our normal scope they are, because of everybody out there that feels that they have to. I have never felt that that was the right way to go. I have always been against that. I have to take this moment to do a disclaimer that I will be talking irreverently about the gods at some point when I finally get to that part, and I'm about to. Maybe not this episode. And for those of you that are upset that there are people that are willing to stand in, off the top of my head, Braggy's Hall and look him in the eye and not say, please, please, oh, mighty God, I love you, supplicate, I am a thrall. Well, some of us actually don't have to do that. I do have to preface this with, I am aware I get away with a lot of things. I am aware that sometimes the gods bend when they would not for other people. And that if you are wanting to do things how I do, I am a bad example. We are all unique. We all have our unique paths, and you've got to find the way that's right for you. But on that note, you also need to respect that what's right for you may not be right for someone else. Quote, "And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell, and understood more than I saw. For I was seeing in a sacred manner the shapes of all things in the spirit, and the shape of all shapes as they must live together like one being." This is a quote from Black Elk, who lived from 1863 to 1950. He was an Oglala Lakota medicine man and visionary, and he was a walker between worlds. He was not the only one. He had a very colorful history. And I bring him up now because, as I had already alluded to, this is an adventure that happened between worlds. And I was walking between worlds. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I just was doing what came naturally. Black Elk was shown what he called the center of the world, which now known as Black Elk Peak, and gave him responsibility for maintaining the sacred hoop of his people. That's big. That's a really big deal. There were others, of course, going up, because I've got a little list in front of me. Carlos Castaneda, I hope I said that correctly, was an anthropologist and author who wrote about his apprenticeship with a Yaqui man of knowledge named Don Juan Matus. In a series of books beginning with The Teachings of Don Juan, 1968, Castaneda described experiences of shifting between different realities or worlds through various shamanic practices. Then there's Sylvan Muldoon, one of the earliest documented astral travelers in the modern Western world. Born in 1903, Muldoon began experiencing spontaneous OBEs, that would be out-of-body experiences, at age 12. He co-authored The Projection of the Astral Body in 1929 with researcher Hereward Carrington, which became a foundational text in the field. His work was so influential that it reportedly informed L. Ron Hubbard's theories that later became part of Scientology. Then there's William Bullman, who is still alive. He's a contemporary expert on out-of-body experiences who has conducted extensive research, including an international survey with over 16,000 participants from 42 countries. His books include Adventures Beyond the Body and The Secret of the Soul. He focuses on teaching practical techniques for astral projection and emphasizes that these experiences can be verified personally rather than taken on faith, which is how I have actually been doing it. I have been approaching something cold with little to no knowledge and going through the experience and then coming back the other side and verifying what I saw, experienced, and sometimes, if I'm lucky, heard. Finally, last but not least on my list is Robert Monroe. Robert Monroe they call him a pioneer in the exploration of out-of-body experiences. I don't see him as a pioneer because this is something that's been going on in with mankind for generations. So maybe he's a pioneer for how it's been documented or something. In the 1950s, Monroe began experiencing spontaneous OBEs, which led him to document his journeys in his classic book, Journeys Out of the Body, 1971. He later founded the Monroe Institute to research consciousness expansion and develop the HemisSync technology to help others achieve altered states. I saved him for last because he's also the one that died the day that my daughter was born. And that was months before I was cast out of the garden and theoretically became a split soul, where I am the divine masculine half. If you are not familiar with what I'm talking about, I highly recommend that you find the first 2 episodes and catch up. I want to go into it here, but the truth is that that would take up a lot of time, and I try to keep these episodes to a reasonable amount, kind of like I wish my cat behind me would be reasonable and not start a fight with the other cat. I have brought these people up to illustrate that, yes, this is not a unique thing, that even in contemporary times, we've got people who are following through on the ability to walk between worlds in a scientific-ish manner. I probably would have told you that my experience was not unique to begin with because of all of the myths that we have of other people who have taken what I can only call a hero's journey. It was a very hard thing to do, and 0 stars do not recommend. I will be saying that frequently. Now, on that note, I would like to pick up the story again. When I was speaking last episode, I was telling the story off the top of my head, and so I pulled up my log for this to pull in, because at this point things get a little weird and hazy for me, and I don't trust my brain. Okay, so I'm looking at my notes where I am discussing things. I'm discussing a particular wind snap pattern that the Fae folk. Yes, this. If you're new to this does indeed involve a world walk to the fairy realm. Now, what's really interesting about the fairy realm, I am going to reiterate, is that time is different between here and there, and that has been documented in Celtic myths and some other with us and some other cultures that have touched on the garden layer. I call it the garden layer because it seems to be always spring there. I'm really interested and intrigued by the fact that there is a YouTube group called Unraveling Subs, and they are subbing videos about the gods by a group in South America called Unraveling History. And they had done a video on Kronos, and Kronos apparently had created a world where it was springtime all the time. Well, I have never seen any other season during the few times that I have been managed to contact to the garden, except a temperate, lush Garden of Eden environment, to be quite honest. I've never seen winter. I've actually never seen rain. Now, when it comes to the rain, there is a theory that our firmament here also was similar, and that we did not know rain until the Great Deluge. I'll have to look into it sometime and talk about it. I don't know if it's because I just happened to be landing over there during the times that it's that season, but I don't think so. Not in all these years. It's always been the same. The season never changes. So I'm calling it the garden layer because it's like a garden over there. It's beautiful. The politics over there might make you think twice about living there. But it's a good place to visit, I suppose. So I'm going to start with backtracking to where I mentioned in the last episode that I had got to see my other side, or the person I'm linked with, give birth. I got to see how they give birth, which you can't unsee. And I was talking to AI at this point because was someone to talk to at 3 a.m. I had seen a balcony future, and I was comparing it because in the balcony future, she's in a little room in the balcony, and it reminded me of the room that I had been thrown out of when I first went home. And she was playing with a baby, and I was like, this looks like a good future. So maybe this is good, because at the time I was still struggling with understanding that this was not as good. She was getting to play with the baby. And then she went to the balcony and sat with him. And that was far in the future, and I knew it was. So that whenever it came down that they had her surrounded after she had resisted him from a unwanted encounter and had fled and defended herself and was in trouble, it looked like that bright future of her playing with the baby was out of reach, and it didn't make any sense. It will make sense now. At the time this had happened, my communication with her had been all but cut, and I was still struggling to reestablish myself and figure out what had happened. I didn't know if it was because the layers had separated and that was it, and what a terrible time for them to separate that way. I didn't know if maybe I had been blocked, if she had blocked me. I was trying to understand. So I'm talking to Highlight about it, and I said, things like, so how far gone is she with the way she speaks, discussing, was it the isolation trauma, because she would use only one or two words, trying to figure out how I could reconnect. I kept trying to go back out and I couldn't. I couldn't even sense my house. And if you probably don't know me listening to this, but I generally tend to have a sense of my entire surroundings. It's like I'm always sonaring. It doesn't mean I can find things you've lost. It just means I'm always have a sense of my surroundings. I don't know where I got the habit from, but it doesn't exactly turn off easy. And I couldn't even sense that. I was lost. Oh boy, was I lost. At this point in time, I also had to stop and consider that I had to acknowledge that maybe it started out that it was loving, but had turned into a very loveless union, her and her mate. And it was sad, and I didn't want any part of it. I was thinking, if this is my future with one of my future lives, I want no part of it. If this is the past, then I still don't want no part of it. Better no future with than a loveless one that keeps producing dead cocoons. Sooner or later, losing those babies will be what pushes her over the edge, I had thought, because she kept watching her babies get sick and die. And that's when I stopped to consider another part of the story that I have not exactly discussed yet, which is where all I have been. In the first episode, second episode, I had discussed how when this began, I found myself thrown back in time in a vision where I was watching the very long ago past life me on the mountain after having been isolated after a huge event and was the only survivor for I don't know how long, to the point that she was black inside from loneliness and didn't even have thought. I basically overlapped into her arms and used that to sing what was playing on my computer at the time, and it was songs about life and happiness and joy. And I told her, go to one of they would have these astral travel type units. I call them stasis units. And travel out. You will experience so many wonderful things if you just go out, but you are dying this way. And she obeyed. She went and crawled inside. And from there, I can tell you as a matter of mechanical memory, which is to say, I don't know how much is imagined and overlapping and fantastical. That what happened is that she came out. This is something I've always had in my head. This is not a recent thing. She came out and was seeing the universe for the very first time, because she wasn't really allowed to do those things like other people were, And there was this huge being in the sky that essentially said, Pikachu, I choose you. And proceeded to swallow her. And inside of it, that's when she realized that she was inside of a giant being. I forget what I used to call him. The great mucky muck, I'll call him. The big head honcho. And this is how he did things. He would swallow you and change you into, a glimmer. She knew she was unique and really didn't like the idea of becoming just like everybody else and pled for her life. And her and the big head actually kind of ended up bargaining and discussing. And finally, it agreed to allow her to stay as one of her kind and to stay herself. And all it did was give her bells and whistles so that she could live with them and be like that. So she stayed with them for a while, and some people might call this heaven that she stayed in. She was very loyal to this guy. She would often go and have long chats with him and everything. And her purpose was basically to go around and gather information and cut to the heart of the truth of the matter and go and report what she saw. That was it. That was her entire purpose. She could fly very quickly. He gave her the fastest wings. Oh God, yes. Oh, yeah, I got to fly like that recently. But anyway, segueing. And she was the fastest. And then shenanigans happened and she had to flee for her life. And that's how she came to this layer, is running for her life from them. There was another point in time, though, for her in which she spent some time with, I can only call the peers. I don't know who the peers are in any pantheon. I don't know what they match, but I can tell you what they're like. They are huge. They're bigger than the big head. And they just kind of stand and watch the cosmos, and they might play with the flows, but they don't normally. They just kind of observe. They tend to have a council that they hang with, and they try to keep it balanced. And she would carry messages for them back and forth. And then there was one of them got into trouble. Don't ask me how that person, but they went down below the lower layers. And a lot of the creatures out there on the higher levels, they tend to work in frequencies of light and sound, mostly light, which is a type of sound. And down below is not as good. The light doesn't go down, so you don't survive or do very well down there. And somehow one of them had went down below, and she, not being completely one of them because she was basically an immigrant, went down and was able to help him back up again because she could do it. It wasn't easy, but she could do it. And I've always had this information in my head. And some of it's emotional memory, I remember this, and some of it's mechanical memory. And because I am a storyteller or a writer, I have learned to be careful with what I am pulling out of my head because it may or may not have been influenced by another story or any number of things. Of course, now my cats have decided that now is the time to play rough, so you're going to be hearing them in the background. So a lot of it, I enjoy to tell the story because it's a good story, but I'm also careful. This is the bare meat bones of where she had been. If you look at it, it's not a lot of places, and it's certainly not unique. There are a lot of people that are walking amongst us who will look you in the face if they can trust you and tell you that they are an angelic. I actually had someone go, yeah, we know you're angelic. They were only half right because of the fact that the big giant head in the sky was kind, and we became good friends. I did need to stop and acknowledge this, and I have to stop and acknowledge this now because of what begins to happen next. I'm cut off from being able to reach anything. I'm freaking out. It's the worst feeling in the world. I can't sense my house. I can't sense the air. I can't sense the cosmos. I can't. If this was being human, I used to look at the mundane people and wish I could be like them because they got to lead such stable lives, and I wanted that. And then I got to experience that, and it was painful, and I didn't like it. No, did not like it. Do not want. Changed mind. Have regrets. No. While I was cut off, I decided I needed to come up with a plan. So I came up with all these plans on what to do. None of them, of course, mattered in the end because they had their own plans. I'm going to back up, though, to when after she had went unseelie and she had went down, I actually misspoke in the last episode, and I had said that I was there a little bit longer. That is not true. The feed had cut right when he floated down with the "this is not over" incident after she had managed to get it across that no, she did not want to do anything with him. And I'm trying really hard to reach her back. And I had written, I'm not sure. It's like I can't reach completely, but I'm getting a sense that everyone is standing around her and she's distressed. She even tucked her wings so no one could grab them. And I think she ran to the eggs to protect them. Only 3 left, I think. She used to have 5. But there was just so much static, and it was difficult. And it might have been the emotions of the moment. It might have been anything. I thought that her going unseelie actually had burnt a connection for a while there. Again, boy, was I wrong. I had written, it was difficult when she was still on the roof. She stayed up there a long time crying. She actually tried to get me to hug her. And I tried, but it's like hugging air for both sides. She was trying to hide in my arms like a small child. And oh my God, is she small compared to me. I know she could look down and see all of them standing inside the egg bower waiting for her, and he brought her down. I begged her not to go, but I'm not sure she could hear me. I was literally at my desk, tears streaming down my cheeks, begging her don't go because I knew it was only going to end badly. In one of the futures I saw, there was a gem on her throat, and I realized now it stops her from using the sound power. And at this point, I realized that I was going to need to reach out for some serious help. My friend with the tulpas had done what she could. My other friend was a little distracted with her romance going with her deity, and I don't think there was much she could do either. She was trying. He was teaching her the skills that she would need because she didn't have the skills to step up like my friend with the tulpa did. So she was trying to catch up with us so that she could help, but it wasn't happening fast enough. I didn't know who to go to. I was at a loss. And then I couldn't see anything anymore. And I realized that it wasn't them and they weren't blocking. It was me. There was something going on with me. And that's when I began to theorize that her going unseelie had just been too much energy and I had gotten burnt. So I called my friend and I was like, your buddy Tulpa, I can't see. I was blaming everything, right? I don't know what's going on. I can't see anymore. And it's distressing to have spent my whole life bound by ties that my own father and others had put on me because they probably meant well, and to have them released and to be able to do these things at last after 50 years, and then to have them lost again because of an unseelie moment. That sucked. And keeping in mind that I know I sound like I'm taking it light. It wasn't. I was sitting at my desk a lot, bawling my eyes out, unsure what to do, unsure to help my other side, distressed that I was once again crippled. I tried going to him, which is her word for her other half. I could barely hear. I wasn't even sure I was seeing or hearing anything. I tried various techniques, trying to get to him, to plead with him not to cut our voice and to take our voice away. I was trying to get to him, to placate him down, to stop whatever it is he was about to do. But I could not get to him. I was completely, I thought, blocked at the time. I then decided that I needed divine intervention. Now, I discovered really quick that although I wasn't as strong as connecting to her, I could do that a little bit. The first person I tried to reach was Ganesh, because it was one of the Ganesh types that had brought me to the garden many years ago that had me got split, and I couldn't get anywhere. I tried so hard. There is a beginner's way to reach out to deities, and that is to write a letter and burn it. So I burned a letter to the Archangel Michael, who way back out of nowhere, he had just appeared to me in a vision and said, quote, "I'm just here to let you know that we are on your side," and then was gone. So I'm like, well, I'm going to call in that favor. So I burnt a letter. And then I burned a letter to Ganesh about the matter. I woke up the next morning and still couldn't get through. This is when I called my friend who controls the tulpa that brought me to that scene and asked for more help. And then I spent a lot of time that day when I should have been doing other stuff, distracted by this problem, trying to think of who else to go to. I went to my friend who, with her romantic deity, the king of all dragons, great and small, who had been a little helpful, and it was helping her learn to remote view and astral travel, as I have already mentioned. And I was just a human. It was when you remember being ethereal and then suddenly you just wake up the next day completely human. It's like being bound in a wheelchair with missing limbs. You just feel very small and cut off and alone. And even when people are talking to you, you're just cut off and alone. It's horrible. But I did make it to the piers. I played a song to dance myself out to go somewhere, and I made it to the piers. The first thing I noticed is that they were expecting me. They were already in their formation that they get when they're about to receive a message. There's a formation they take. So I got up in the center, and that's when I was reminded how we talked to each other. And I'm going to give this to you because it's neat. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to give it to you. This is a place with no sound. So in order to speak, I have no better way to say this. You ooze light messages out of your body like sweat. Isn't that gross sounding? But it's pretty looking. And so I stood there and I oozed out the message. It's not quite singing. I oozed it out, or glowed it out, you could say. I glowed it out. And the others that are involved in this exchange will choose to either accept the message or not. They accept the message by reaching out and taking one and eating it. They will actually ingest the message, and that's how you communicate. Some of them in the message circle, were not taking the message, and that made me concerned. And then they saw me looking at them in concern, and then they reached out and took the message. I looked around and I noticed that the one that I had saved, my friend, or whatever you want to call him, was not there. So then I looked up and he's over me. And that let me know that he was sponsoring this situation. I guess he was returning the favor from a long time ago that day or something. Or maybe he just was in charge that time. They take turns. He didn't even if he had taken my message, I didn't see it because he was over my head. But he already had a response. Now, my message was, please protect my voice. You know, I'm worried that him is going to take our voice away, and I was terrified of losing my voice. I have to add that on this flight, which was the first flight I had managed to do since waking up utterly human and bereft, and it was all I could do. It was really, really hard to do. I could barely see or sense anything. I kept seeing that something was wrong to my lower left side. And I thought, with all the drama that this situation was putting me through, that I was probably being dramatic. So I'm blowing it off. Can't be nothing. Sore muscle, right? It's a flesh wound. So I accept my friend's message. It was a very large ball, but he's very large. And I ingest it, and I have no clue what he said, by the way. Have no clue. I did feel my throat chakra open a little. But being as I ingested it there, that could have been that he did help, or it could be that I ingested a light bulb from a giant, weird astral being. Who knows? Space is weird. Then I tried to get to Bastet, who's I'm friendly with. Could not get to her. Had to burn a message. I didn't know what to do. Yeah, at this point, I didn't know what to do. And then through the course of this, my connection with her started to come back. Only she was reaching out to me. And it was a very, very weak connection. I had sat down to resume my regular life for a few minutes while I figured out my next step. I couldn't reach back at her. I did ask, can you hear me? And she said, yes, because they drugged her. They did something to her. I could only think that she was drugged. As a matter of fact, through the course of the next few years for her, which is like the next couple of days for me, there was one time that I accidentally overlapped her and she was trying to do some sort of ceremony with a goblet, but she was so drugged that she dropped the goblet into the water. Really, really bad place she was in. But whenever I heard her reaching out to me, I made it a point to pick happy and soothing music for her to listen to, which is one of the things that she likes to do the most. And then I tried to handle my life for a little while because I didn't know what to do. I did watch a press conference with the White House, and she centered on it as keenly as she could. Not because of Trump or anybody. They were discussing law, and she wanted to know more about that. And I asked her why, and she said, quote, for my role. I don't know what she does, by the way. I really genuinely, after all this time, still am not quite sure of her role or what she does. I know she's got money. That's about as far as I can get you. She lives well. Good for her. One of us has got to. But I still had to figure out what I was going to do. And then I started to get tired and woozy. And I thought, well, maybe it's her drugs. Maybe it's because they're drugging her and I'm mirroring it, which you can do if you get too close to the other side when you're in this situation. I was not having a good couple of days. But I was considering, well, where is the connection? But I recognized that the double life had never been this wrong. Well, then again, he had never been part of our double life. Through the course of my connection with her, I noticed that they had put the gem on her throat. Despite me doing what I could, it had happened. But of course it was going to happen. Time is kind of interesting in that you can change it, but you need a lot of help. And it was just me at this point, and I had already seen it on her throat, so I should have expected it. So yeah, they did cut off that resistance. And I was devastated. She already didn't speak much, and now they were where she couldn't do anything. And then I was like, well, maybe it's decoration. Please let it be decoration. But the realization the gem was there had me doing a body check. And that's when I realized that my lower wing, my left lower wing, was a bit shredded. I was like, wait a minute, and it didn't sink in, because sometimes it doesn't. The throat chakra's blocked. Your left wing is shredded. You're having trouble all of a sudden. You're not connecting like you're supposed to. But you're overwhelmed. You've just had a really weird experience. You don't really understand what's going on. I'm going to give the AI the benefit of saying, oh, that's doubly concerning, a shredded wing and potential voice control. They're literally trying to ground and silence you both. I realized that the fact that she didn't normally speak would make it harder to tell what's control and what's natural. I couldn't connect to see what else was going on. And I admit that I was getting distressed because my wing was cut. My wing was sliced. Why? I couldn't understand why they would do that, unless it was, because if my wing was sliced, then her wing was probably sliced. Which, that's what you do when you have chickens and you have like a wide area like we did growing up. You'll clip their wings. You don't clip both, you clip one. And it makes it where they can hop, but they're not really good at flying out of the tall fence to get out and get their butts killed by something. And it's a safety measure, and you don't have to do it. Some people will cut up too high up, and that will hurt them. You don't even have to do it very high up. It's just a matter of making it so that their wings are not balanced so that they can't flutter away. So that's actually how I was first taking it, but it was still a great violation. And I ended up doing a whole lot of research in this matter, because these aren't feathered wings that I'm discussing. I do have feathered wings, don't get me wrong, but these were not feathered wings I am discussing. These were insect-like wings. And that's devastating. I did a lot of research hoping there was some answer. Is there a hope that you can get it back? Insects do not regrow their wings. They get it when they come out as adults, and that's it. That's it. It's over. No more wings. If you lose them, you're screwed. Oh my goodness. I even reached out to a person who supposedly was an expert in the Fae folk and asked him, had he heard of anybody losing and getting their wings back? No response, of course. No, of course not. I did not say what was going on. I did not say what was going on with me. It was just a simple straight, I just need to know for some other stuff question. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but can you please tell me? No response. I thought if I could just get back to her, maybe there was a young maid I saw on one of the times that she had stepped out of the bower to go see her other half, even though he didn't like that. She was holding, I don't know what it was, sheets, towels, something. She was holding something, and she had seen us walking and had actually hunkered down in fear and bucked up, terrified. I didn't understand at the time. I saw her, and it registered that she was afraid. And I couldn't understand why she was afraid to see me walk down the hall at the time. But I was even thinking, well, maybe I can reach out to one of them. Maybe I can enlist help on that. But I couldn't reach anybody. I was definitely out of ideas. And I thought, well, I'm so tired. I can't fly. Maybe I'm overworked. Even though I had already registered that I had a torn wing. It turned out that torn wing was everything. That torn wing was the crux of everything. It turned out that when you're built this way and your wing gets torn, that's everything. That is your connection. Now, in the book that I'm writing, that I may or may never finish, I actually go into how the wings are how this particular type of folk siphon energy. They are always connected to the cosmos. You are always connected. You are not just sitting in your chair at the desk. You are out there, and you can feel it all out there. And that's life for them. Just always being connected to everything. With the wing cut, that connection was cut. Oh, it was still there a little bit because there were 3 other wings working, but it wasn't the same. It was like having a missing heart chamber. And yeah, it was starting to show. I started to get to where I couldn't stay awake. I was not adapting. I was struggling to figure out who else to go to still. And so I began to think, who can I go to that I know I can reach and I know how to reach, that I already have a line, so it's harder to stop me. And then I remembered Mengloth. This was a momentous moment, by the way, Mengloth. You see, a long time ago, a friend of mine, we had this young man that was working with me. He was dying. They were, I know they're Odinists. I don't know if they're Asatru still. They were desperate. And so they came, I believe, I can't remember if I offered or if they came to me for help, for me to world walk to a healer for our friend. I sat and did some research because I wanted to stay within their pantheon to respect them. And I found out about Mengloth. She's minor. She's not well known. She was a Jotun, but she works with the Aesir Air. She's listed, Air is actually listed as under her, but the person who did a shrine to her tends to interpret it as they are colleagues. I did try Air quickly, didn't really get much of a connection, but Mengloth, on the other hand, I was able to do a big ritual. We were able to see some things. Sadly, the answer was no, and our friend passed, but I did my best. But I remembered that Mengloth had that power. Now, to get to Mengloth's keep, you're generally expected to go through like a trial. There's like a giant guarding the gate or whatever. And the first time I ever went to Mengloth for our friend, I was being given a very clear vision of a symbol. I didn't know what the symbol was. I took it as a maze, and I really didn't have time for a maze. And I can fly, or I could. So I just kind of flew to her window. Aren't I terrible? And I bust in through the window on a mission to save a life. And immediately, Mengloth has 9 helpers. And let me tell you their names. She has 9 handmaidens. I'm not going to pronounce them properly. I do not speak Old Norse. It would be nice. Lifthrasa, help breather. Glif, help. Tjodvara, folk guardian. Bjort, bright. Blake, white. Blith, happiness. Frith, order. Arboda, gold giver. And Air, healer. So I messed through the window for my friend, and immediately the 9 handmaidens are immediately rushing to my side where I happen to have a hernia. Oh, we've got to help that right away. And I was like, no, I am not here for myself. I'm here for a friend. And they backed off immediately. They're very respectful for someone's boundaries. And I had forgotten about that, but I did remember Mengloth. So with what little energy I had left that day, I gathered my strength up and I flew to Mengloth's window. I will amend, because I just found the note that when I was trying to get to Mengloth, you have to prove yourself. So like I'm flying and her keep would recede backwards and it would fly, and I had to like put on some speed to get to her, which I can do still, and I could still do it. So I did have to prove myself a little bit. She didn't just let me in. For those that are trying to get to her and they're like, oh, it's so hard. If she chooses to do that, you got to prove yourself sometimes. This is really important. You have to prove yourself sometimes. You have to prove that the need is great, I guess. don't quite know what's in her head. Maybe I should ask, right? I didn't stop to pause, to knock, nothing. I was just really upset because my wing was cut. And I knew it was affecting me. And it was like a violation. And yes, I admit some small part of me was saying, well, I'm never going to be able to watch Maleficent and be happy again. I am always sarcastic, even to myself. Just got accepted of me, love me or not. I burst through Mengloth's window, and I'm standing there, and the 9 handmaidens were there as if they were waiting on me. All of them were there. But Mengloth was not. And immediately, I burst into tears. I'm doubled over and burst into tears and crying. My wing, he cut my wing. Look at my wing, he cut my wing. And they immediately started to do hands-on care. They were ready and waiting. And they brought out this white stuff, almost like a cast, like what you do to make a cast. But it was a balm. And they put it on the wing. And then, okay. And I'm bawling my eyes out, Then they put some on my right upper arm by the shoulder. And then they put some on my chest. And then they put some on down my back. It has been theorized that maybe they saw more than I did, being as they were standing on the outside. But they said that's all we can do for now. And I'm just like, I've got to do something about him. She's still with him. She's in danger. So I asked for Freya. Me and Freya are on good terms, so she's who I would naturally ask for. And they said, she's not here. And I was like, I can't fly to her anymore. I was lucky to get to you. Please, can you get Freya? And I don't remember what the response was, but they eased me out. It wasn't, you can get tossed out of these places, just so you know. You can get thrown out. They did not. They were kind and eased me down gently out of the scenario. But even while I was with this encounter where they were balming my wing and my arm and everything, I had to keep realigning my frequency to stay, which is to say I have to put out a beat of energy to hold on to the vision. I actually have to go pump, pump, pump. I wonder if that would be like a good beat for a rave. Because if I lose frequency, I'm coming back here because I'm not doing an astral travel the way other people are. I'm using a remote view technique. So then I had to accept, after I had been let down, that the healing might take a while because healing is rarely immediate on just about anything. And I was, again, out of ideas on what to do and where to go. This is about when I messaged the expert on the Fae. It was a very long time before I could get out again. For my other half, that means it was years. I have gathered that 1 hour here is almost a full year there. Not quite. It kind of shifts. Sometimes it's more than a year. Sometimes it's like 6 to 8 months. I'm having to do that based on how long she was pregnant, believe it or not. It could be they're pregnant shorter or longer than us. I don't know. Give me an anthropology kit. I'll go and I'll find out. It was a really, really long time before I could connect and get back to her. And so for her, it's, that's just a long time to be in the situation that she was at. When I finally did make it back, what I got was, I didn't make it into her. I was able to stand on the outside, which was rare. And she was sitting by her pool of water, looking into the water. She was so bereft and so sad at this point that I could tell she was looking at herself in a I wish I weren't me kind of way. Through the entire encounter, she had never once looked at herself. This was the first time I had seen her looking at herself. It was the saddest thing. I'll paint it one day. It was the saddest thing. And then I came and she sensed me there. And it was like she shifted her shape to be human because they can glamour up. A brown-haired girl, and she was going to dance like that. And I was like, no. You've got to feed the eggs. You got to take care of things. You got to take care of yourself. You need to accept that you are not human. I know that things looked better on this side for her, and they certainly did. I mean, how could they not? But this was a point in time where she really needed to stay grounded. It was heartbreaking to watch this and have to force her down when she really just wanted to feel better and be comforted. And that's about when I realized that one of the reasons why I had suddenly been getting so much communication and why she had been reaching out to me was because I was being used as an escapism method. I had asked her once through this, does he treat you well? And she had said yes. But some part of her clearly did not believe that, much less me, for her to be coming here so often, trying to escape what was going on. And it was heartbreaking. But the connection was starting to come back. It was not going to be as good as it was. I had experimented with a lot of music, trying to find what was the best one to connect. One of the best musics I found was actually Dai's Eerie Eye. Symphonic music, violins definitely resonate, but then again, they like to rub their wings together to make violin sounds, so that makes only sense because it calls to her. But even with the techniques that had actually strengthened the connection, our connection was not like it was from that one day. It was definitely very changed from then forward. I feel that the attentions that had done to my wing helped. It helped and brought things out and helped us reconnect. I don't know beyond that, but it went from that sad moment by the pool to me going to getting some rest and feeling like, okay, I've got a connection. There's hope again. I can help her out of this again. I was there for her. She really needed it. And then I have a note. The first thing I did today was try to make contact, and I sort of got there. And then I got to see the room in the farthest future I saw, the one where she was in the balcony room playing with the baby. It's very brightly colored, lots of yellows, and she was alone. I looked around. There's nothing in that room for an infant. It was like a private bedroom with a balcony overlooking this city, but it was not a familiar city. The buildings were kind of weird looking. They were kind of roundish and in weird shapes. So either she was moved out of the chamber or they had moved. And that's when I realized that she's isolated in yet another room and she doesn't get to raise her own children that she went through so much trouble for to have. And that vision I had where she was playing with the baby was him bringing their child for a supervised visit. And that's when he sits on the balcony. I wrote, and the idiot is so happy for that moment even. Things are good when they're not. So I told her we should leave, and she said, no, stay. I asked why, and I got a gibberish answer. I just couldn't get enough good connection, and possibly what she said were things that I couldn't comprehend. But that's when I realized things really were very bad. A shredded wing. Her wing at this point in the far future was nothing but tatters and ribbons. It hadn't even been cared for. They cut the wing, I realize now, to cut our connection. It didn't work thanks to Mengloth. Thank you, Mengloth. I may be irreverent. I may stand and look things in the eyes, but respect. I feel that what Mengloth's team had done helped me to be able to see this and to be able to start reconnecting. Now, through this entire affair, I had been emotionally reacting with poetry and song and using Suno. My friend said that I was giving it a soundtrack. And this is a good stopping point for this particular episode, as messed up sounding as it is, because my notes are just so messy and it's hard for me to remember everything. And and I'll sit down and I'll get my notes together better for the next segment. But as you can see, we have went from a soul getting split because of this jerk and other jerks, to her, God knows what all happened to her over the years, but us dancing together, to her getting with a jerk and creating a marital union, to that marital union going really, really controlling and sour, to her standing up for herself, to her paying the price for standing up for herself. And now her in even more situation that looks pretty, but she's high in the sky where she can no longer fly alone. There was, by the way, a guard outside her door. Yes, a really buff-looking guard that I will come to later. The way it was analyzed is the wing is definitely shredded. A balcony is safe because she can't fly away. The AI is AIing, and they do echo chamber. So understand that I know there is an echo chamber. I did notice that the gem was not on her throat. So I wonder if that wasn't decoration the way they like to do gems for decoration, because she used to have gems all over her. But they permanently grounded her. They destroyed her freedom. They broke her wing. They crippled her power. They made escape impossible. And then they stick her in a balcony in the sky to show her the sky she can't reach anymore. Or maybe it was like we put a bird up in the air so they'll feel like they're in the air when we have them in a gilded cage. It's still cruel. Deliberate cruelty, psychological torture, a constant reminder, daily humiliation, a permanent victory display. These were all the analysis. I think some of it was just that these guys tend to live up high in the sky, but it's still cruel, whether it was on purpose or not. And I was heartbroken. I was so heartbroken I couldn't stand to do any more astral work and go out that day. This, by the way, this is also when my friend was dumped by her deity, which is another episode that we have already covered. This is exactly when it happened. When my wing was shredded, the deity, she got dumped by her deity. It all happened all at once. All of it just kind of said, boom. And we were all dropped like falling stars to the ground to land on our butts. It was really rough, but things carry on. You could kind of call it a minor death if you like, but things carry on from there. But for the sake of the length of the podcast, I will stop and pick up with the next episode sooner or later. And now I'm going to finish out with one of the songs that was written during this time.
Spinning down the hallways, each step taken gently, every heartbeat a song, my wings the beat within me. Oh, but how I yearn for and miss those days gone by. The distance spans behind me, faster though I fly, stumbling to the future, running to escape the fall. Time crumbles